The 1960s is the bloodiest decade in American history since the Civil War, since the 1860s. Servicemen killed weekly, campus unrest, civil rights movement playing out. The bloodiest year in that bloodiest decade? 1968, the Tet Offensive in February of that year. Martin Luther King assassinated, RFK assassinated. Yet, somehow we managed to still dream about tomorrow.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It was still in us. It's what birthed the Star Trek television series. By my measure, one of the greatest television shows ever, The Twilight Zone, was heavily influenced by space themes. Every third episode, there's some space concept being delivered to you, telling another story through the lens of a space story.
They're taking a highway into space. Man unshackling himself and sending his tiny, groping fingers up into the unknown. Their destination is Mars. And in just a moment, we'll land there with them.
Our presence in space is affecting not only the engineers and the mathematicians and the scientists, it's affecting the creative dimension of that which we call culture. We are living it at every turn. What happens December 1968? How do you cap off that year? Apollo 8. An underappreciated Apollo mission, not by this audience. Most people never heard of it. Apollo 8, what's that? Excuse me, that was the first time anybody ever left Earth with a destination in mind. A photo of Earth rising over the lunar landscape. That photo, we all know it, Earthrise over the moon. There was Earth, seen not as the map maker would have you identify it. No, the countries were not color-coded with boundaries. It was seen as nature intended it to be viewed. Oceans, land, clouds. We went to the moon and we discovered Earth. I claim we discovered Earth for the first time. How does that affect culture? Let's back up to 1962 briefly. Rachel Carson publishes Silent Spring. The Green Movement typically credits that as the birth of caring about the environment. It was a best-selling book. I have a different view. Maybe it planted some seeds, maybe it tilled the landscape, but stuff didn't really start happening until after that photo of Earthrise over the moon was published. 1968, the whole Earth catalog is published. There's a version before that photo is printed. The instant that photo comes out, that is the identifying cover picture of the whole Earth catalog. Thinking about Earth as a whole, not as a place where nations war, as a whole. 7 months later, 1969, we land on the moon. We're still going to the moon. We go until 1972, so watch this sequence of events. 1970, the Comprehensive Clean Air Act is passed. Earth Day was birthed March 1970. The Environmental Protection Agency was founded in 1970. DDT gets banned, not right after Rachel Carson's book, gets banned in 1972. Clean Water Act, 1971. 1972, Endangered Species Act. Unleaded gas, 1973. We're still at war in Vietnam. There's still campus unrest. Yet we found the time to start thinking about Earth. That is space operating on our culture, and you cannot even put a price on that. That is a world reacting to a new perspective on what it is to be alive on this planet that we all share. You know, back then, you didn't need special programs to convince people that science was a good thing in school. You didn't need special programs to show people that engineering and math, the STEM fields, that these are useful to society, to our identity as a nation, because the headlines that were writ large over that era had built into them the fact that innovation created those headlines. By the way, I have a collection of magazines, even Collier's, going back into the 1950s. They all talked about tomorrow. How many issues did you have to wait before there was an article about the city of tomorrow, the home of tomorrow, transportation of tomorrow? It was in our culture, it was in our mindset, our zeitgeist. 1970s come around. That all ended. The space frontier stopped being breached. We did other things. By the way, there was an engineering frontier that we took on. How do you make a reusable spacecraft? How do you build something in zero-G? Something big, like a space station. All this comes in the next 10 to 20 years. That's advancing an engineering frontier. It's not advancing a space frontier. And if I may put some of this in perspective, what are the current problems? Here in America, not other parts of the world. Here in America, our economy is in the toilet. Hardly anybody's interested in the STEM fields. Our jobs are going overseas, and you have politicians that are pretty sure they have a solution to that. Oh, you need more science kids in the school? Let's make better science teachers. There's a Band-Aid for you. Put that right there. Throw a couple of dollars on that one. That ought to fix that. How about our jobs going overseas? Okay, let me think about that. All right, how about put in some tariffs and make some tax incentives in the community? We'll keep the factory right there. Another Band-Aid. People aren't innovating, so we put money in sort of innovation businesses. Okay. These are all Band-Aids, people. They're Band-Aids. Here's what we gotta do. And I've said this a billion times. You double NASA's budget. Right now it's a half a penny on a dollar. Half a penny. That pays for everything. Space station, all the centers, the Hubble telescope, the James Webb, the rover, the Kepler, everybody is out of that half a penny. You double it. Double it to a penny. That's all I'm gonna say. Double it. And here's what you do. I'm a little unorthodox in this vision statement. I'm not gonna twist people's arms. Let me just put it out there. I don't wanna be driven by one destination or another. I don't wanna say, our next thing we're gonna do in space, we're gonna go to Mars. It's like, excuse me, how about all the rest of space? You know what I want to do when you double the budget? Let's create a suite of launch vehicles. We're kind of sort of doing that now, but let's do that as the focus. A suite of launch vehicles with strap-ons, whatever you need. One configuration will get you to the moon. Another will get you to a Lagrangian point. Another will get you to Mars. Maybe there's an asteroid headed our way. We want to do something about that. So we create a suite of vehicles that gives us access to space. When Eisenhower came back from Europe after he saw the Autobahn and how it survived heavy climactic variation and troop maneuvers, he said, I want some of those in my country. All right, so he gets everyone to agree to build the interstate system. Did he say, you know, I just want to build it from New York to LA because that's where you should go? No, the interstate system connects everybody in whatever way you want. That's how you grow a system. Scientists want to study, see if there's life on Mars? We'll do that too. Everybody's space interest gets served by this capacity. And when you do this, you guarantee that you are advancing a space frontier every week. And I can guarantee you, every week there's gonna be a new headline. Astronauts, engineers found a way to extract the water from the soils of Mars, separate the hydrogen and oxygen. We now have a supply of rocket fuel on Mars, a fill-in station, so you don't have to carry all your fuel with you. Whatever are the needs or urges, be they geopolitical, military, economic, space becomes that frontier. And you know, every week some new invention is gonna be granted, some new patent is gonna be offered. Because space is hard, space is dangerous, space is exciting. Not only do you innovate, these innovations make headlines, and those headlines work their way down the educational pipeline, and everybody in school knows about it. You don't have to set up a program to convince people that being an engineer is cool. They'll know it just by the cultural presence of those activities. You do that, it'll jumpstart our dreams. That's what it'll do. If we have an innovation culture, we'll resurrect some of that attitude we all had in the 1960s. Except this time it'll be without the tandem expense of war. The difference is we need to look at NASA not as a handout, but as an investment. Because I can tell you, as goes the health of spacefaring ambitions, so too goes the spiritual, the emotional, the intellectual, the creative, and the economic ambitions of a nation. So goes the future of America. Thank you all.